Tania. For those for whom neurodiversity doesn't present any challenges to them, they don't have any challenges resulting from any level of neurodiversity, paint those of us that are like that a picture of what it can be like to go through life with challenges that do arise from the brain working differently, thinking differently. What can it be like to go through life with things like ADHD, dyslexia, how accessible or inaccessible that might make life for me?
I would say because we're all born with it, it's genetic. A lot of the time it's passed down. It's kind of everything we've always known. So it's just kind of everyone's got their own life journey, everyone's got their own brain. But when you're a neurodivergent, it's everything you've always known, but you have these, I call them bees in your head. And there's like sensory issues as well. And like everything's kind of heightened, and it can look like relationship problems. It can look like communication issues. It can look like anxiety. It can look like depression. There's a lot of mental health conditions within neurodiversity as well, with neurodiversity conditions. But I would say everyone kind of goes through their challenges, and there's ways to make your life easier, and there's ways to accept neurodiversity. And obviously, like, everyone's gone through late diagnoses recently. It's coming out. There's two sides to people's viewpoints. Some people are like, well, it just doesn't exist, or it's really hyped, it's really trending. But a lot of people don't realise is that the research has been there almost under a blanket since 70s, 80s, 90s, but it just hasn't, that research hasn't really come to fruition the way it should have been over time.
What research is that?
So it's articles. So like Judy Singer, for instance, so she was an Australian sociologist, and she was the one that coined the term neurodiversity in, I want to say 1997. I want to say 97, definitely the 90s, 97. We're going to go with it. And so that just proves the point. Like, even though it's 2025 today, it's still taken so much time to almost build a case of neurodiversity and what it is and what it looks like. And obviously the research and the testing, and, when vaccines take at least 12 years to come to fruition, it's all
overdone with Ken.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Don't even start me on that. But it's, that data has to build up to really get a full scope of what ADHD is, what autism is, what dyslexia is. And there's still research to be done. So as you can tell, I've got ADHD and autism, so I've just answered that in my own way. Mm-hmm. But it can have challenges, but it can also bring gifts. And I think it's just learning yourself, learning why you are the way you are, and finding those coping mechanisms. Can't talk today. Need more coffee. And kind of giving you that self-worth, that self-love, that self-respect, which we'll probably get onto at some point. But like during a career, when you're a neurodivergent, isn't always the easiest, depending on the career that you've chosen. So it's a lot, in short.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the show, or back to the show for those of you who aren't new here. Getting lots of new faces these days, and so I just wanted to take a quick sec to introduce myself. Hey, I'm Seven, and also to give you a quick announcement. As a little bit of background, this show used to be very focused on what it meant to be a leader, but I quickly realized I already had my answer, which is that I believe you already are one. And it's just about becoming more of that person you want to be. So we're talking about the world, self-leadership, personal development, humanity, discovery, self-discovery, and so much more. This is a place where deep conversations happen in a way that helps you become more of that person you want to be. And so if you appreciate that and you want to help us grow, but I know you're tired of people hearing, we've been hearing this for over a decade, like and subscribe and share the episode, and I get it, but look, it is genuinely the biggest and best thing that you can do. I don't play ads or any crap like that. I do this and take this time to say thank you because I appreciate you and where this show is going. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Lots of love, and let's get on with the episode. You use this word neurodivergent, which it sounds obvious when you say it, but I actually haven't heard it before. So what does that mean? How is that different to just saying neurodiverse, or what is this word?
That's okay. So we have neurotypical, which is someone that doesn't have neurodiversity, neurodivergence. So someone that doesn't have ADHD or autism, for example. And then we have neurodivergent, which is someone that has ADHD or autism. So it's basically the word to explain what that person is and what they have. So neurotypical, it doesn't have neurodiversity, neurodivergence, but can have mental health conditions that are linked to it, but not neurodivergent. Does that answer?
Yes. Do you know Andreas Geppel?
I'm better with faces.
Okay, I'll show you his face.
Yes, no, because as soon as I'll see it, I'll be like, yes, I do.
Okay. He came on the show very early on, and he left me with a quote that's really interesting to me. There is no such thing as neurotypical. You heard this thought before?
Interesting sideline.
This is, well, it's because the reason why I phrased the question that I did very, but in like a really weird way, is because I, as a result, have stopped going neurotypical and neurodiverse. His answer is a very neurologically based one, which is all of our brains work differently.
Yes.
And therefore there is no normal.
Yes.
There is just varying degrees of diverse. And it happens that some of those diverse fit into things that we can group and call things like ADHD or dyslexia or dyspraxia or whatever else.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about division or diversion, my words.
No, you do.
To what extent are we like almost trying to get? It feels like we're trying to get really technical and group people into convenient little buckets, but actually none of us are very convenient buckets. There are so many different ways something like ADHD can show up. We used to have ADD and ADHD, so with or without hyperactivity. Then that's updated. There are now, 3 different types of ADHD, and we don't use ADD anymore, and it's so confusing. And at what point is it all getting really like overcomplicated?
Well, this is where the build-up of research has happened. So obviously, every day something new is discovered, something has taken us to the next level of that research. So every day is a learning day. What I would say is that you can be, I'm going to use neurotypical, but you could be really forgetful. And some people automatically think, oh, I've got ADHD because I'm forgetful. And this is where it gets not murky, but this is where you need to understand how the brain works, and neurodiversity and neurotypical, because I know there's a lot of self-diagnosis, for instance, as well. A lot of people that are kind of self-assessing themselves. What I would say to that is that be careful, because you can go down a rabbit hole of so much misinformation from people who aren't qualified. And you can self-diagnose yourself with something that isn't actually your diagnosis. But you can relate, you can be forgetful. Like I said, again, you could have energy spurts, but that doesn't mean you've got ADHD. But that's where the assessments come in. And that's where you can be told by a professional, yes, because of this score, because of these questions, how you've answered them, yes, you do have ADHD. The thing that I will say, though, is that I know the waiting lists are stupid, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it how it is. It's stupid because very quickly, I was diagnosed with ADHD at 7 and autism at 25. And I had the privilege of being diagnosed with autism privately. So I didn't have to wait. I think I only waited about 2 months, and I own that privilege. But people that are waiting for so long, it's literally a waiting game. I don't think people realise that these people are just waiting to be told almost who they are. Now, I'm not saying neurodiversity is a personality, but it is part of who you are. So understanding who you are is very important to the human impact, because if someone says, congratulations, you've got ADHD and autism, a lot of people then be like, okay, so I was right, or oh, I had an inkling, or that's why I've done this. So then they look at their what I call past life before the assessment, and then they go through the journey of, oh, this is why this relationship failed. This is why I've gone into different jobs. This is why I felt like in the environment. This is why I get weird in restaurants because of the sensory issues. So it's building up that case.
And to go back to this picture painting piece, then you mentioned a few specific that I would imagine are very common things that are like the manifestations of what it can be like to have.
Talk to me about manifesting.
So I'm the manifesting, the manifestation.
I love manifesting.
So I love that. No, but when I say the manifestations of, I just mean the ways that these things get expressed physically. So talk first about sensory issues and describe for someone who doesn't have those challenges what that might look like. You mentioned like being in a restaurant. I can imagine just walking down the street somewhere like London, really challenging. So what can that look like? If I'm quote unquote neurotypical, I have none of these challenges. Yeah. Describe for me what that's like.
Okay. So we'll use the restaurant as a thing because we're talking about it. So imagine you are walking in the restaurant with your partner or your friend or whatever. You've sat down and you want to order from the menu. So, for instance, personally, my sensory issues come in the form of lights. So if it's what I call hospital white, if it's not warm light, like at Christmas trees.
Room.
Like this room, I'm working with it, don't worry. But it's like really, I mean, that one's kind of quite warm actually, so we're doing all right. But it's like really hospital white, really bright, really, like when you're sitting right underneath a really big light and it's like heat. So that can cause me anxiety, that can cause an emotional feeling of anxious and kind of quite hot in the body. You've then, because my ADHD and autism, you've then got it mixed in. So the ADHD gives me hyper focus on voices. So I can hear about a divorce over there. I can hear about children's birthday party over there. I can literally hear almost like Spider-Man, like 4 different conversations, as well as hearing exactly word for word what my partner's saying to me right now.
And you can process all of these at once?
Yes.
Oh my God, that was really overwhelming.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So then you've got the lighting, you've got the voices, you've then got, with drawing back to the autism, you've got the senses. So it's taste, touch, sound. So sound is related to the voices. The touch of the table, if it doesn't feel quite right, that can make me feel anxious. When the food's brought, if there's certain foods touching each other, that can give me an emotional, I was about to say outburst, but it's not. It's an inburst, really.
Response.
It builds up and up and up and up. It can be taste. If something doesn't taste quite right, that can be. So it's kind of like a stepping stone of heightened emotions. It's a jungle. It's and I call them bees in the head as well. So because there's 1,000 thoughts happening all at once. It sounds like a bit of a psycho thing going on, but it's not, I promise. But it's literally different voices, different tones of voice, kind of like, I think some low self-esteem is naturally in there as well with ADHD. And then kind of like self-worth and self-doubt, which I have been working on, which has been amazing. But it sounds like I'm giving ADHD and autism a bad name. I'm not. We will get onto strengths in a minute. But I just want to say that it's not a superpower, but it brings gifts and it brings challenges. Like everyone in life, everyone has their own journey, everyone has their own thing, but it's not what it looks like in the media. The media is portraying it to be something else when really it's this.
Yeah, I like to say that every gift creates our curses and every curse creates our gift.
I love that, and it's so true.
There's always something that comes from something else.
What goes up must come down.
Yeah, exactly.
That balance.
My talents make this so easy, and therefore I become arrogant, or this challenge was so bad but it pushed me to learn these things. There's always some other side. The pendulum always swings. What about relationships? So you mentioned that as the next example. What impact does this have there?
So again, it can be all those sensory issues, bringing all of that to the table, and then the self-worth and self-doubt. So we could almost self-sabotage, I think, in relationships, where we're trying to almost test a partner. I know we do that a lot, like basically saying, do you love me? Because of that constant low self-worth, self-doubt, like we need that reassurance. And then I would also say, again, sensory, communication issues with the self-worth. And then I literally did think of something and it's gone. And this is a pure ADHD, masking. So we mask a lot as well in relationships. So a lot of the time we could be almost pretending to be someone that they want instead of our true selves. And we do that in the workplace as well. But in terms of like romantic relationships, for instance, it can be difficult because, like when you're first out dating, first 3 months, you're on your really best behavior. And then like the cloak drops a bit. When you have ADHD and autism, for instance, that cloak drops inch by inch, unless you still need to trust that person. So, but you could, like me, I masked for years in romantic relationships and the workplace as well, to the point where I didn't actually know who I was, and it was a bit scary. And that's just before I started my consultancy, where it's just like, I cannot be alone in this. I've masked that much. I don't even know if I like swimming, for instance, because like, do I like swimming? Why do I like swimming? Like, is it because I like it because of someone else? And it can get, once you go down that deep hole, it's hard to get out. I am living proof you can get out that hole, but it takes a lot of work after masking.
So you're describing an identity rabbit hole, where how much of my identity was self-generated and how much of it was, well, no, I guess it's still self-generated, but is your essential self and what you really love at the core of that, or is a bunch of assumptions about what I thought I wanted? And actually, I think this is the case for everyone.
Same as like people pleasing.
Yeah,
but
a lot of those
heightened.
I think a lot of us actually mask all the time. So when the reason I love the word mask is because we walk around as if we are wearing a mask, and all of us do this. All of us have the version of ourselves we used to portray. That's what the school grounds is, right? This is the version of me I'm putting on. And we become adults, quote unquote, become adults. We get older, we got into the quote unquote real world. We realize we're still doing it. We didn't ask ourselves who we were. There's a level up to that, though, where it's like, how many layers deep does it go? I know I don't like this thing, and I was doing this to impress other people, versus my entire life is a construct down to what I genuinely believe because I was unable to distinguish the difference. That sounds intense.
Just a bit.
That sounds immense. So how do you start to dig yourself out of that hole?
Well, my personal experience was I was in digital marketing for about 8 years, worked my way up, all the way up to head of digital, head of a department at an agency. And I just woke up, to be honest with you. One day I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm so tired. And I was masking both personal life and workplace. So it was 24/7 for years, pretty much all my life, if I'm being completely honest with myself. But in the digital marketing industry itself, I just woke up and I was just like, I don't want to be here anymore. So I kind of thought, right, I need to sit myself down and give myself some options. So it was literally no longer be here at all. It was take a holiday, like a sabbatical almost, have a rest, come back into the industry all refreshed, or quit the industry altogether and find something else. So the first option was attempted, but luckily I'm here, so that it didn't go well. So I kind of took myself back and told myself I'll have a couple of months because I'm owed a lot of holiday. I kind of researched a lot about my ADHD and my autism, what it looks like, what it can look like in the workplace for me, some communication strategies, some tools I can introduce to the company, etc. Like I can't be the only one that feels like this, especially in the creative industry. So then I thought, right, okay, I'd like to get educated. So I got my qualifications, got my accessibility practitioner qualification as well. And then I kind of about, 15 months ago, I kind of just made a website and just put myself out there and be like, hi, I'm qualified. I've got lived experience. I've been in creative industry for a long time. Who would like to learn about neurodiversity and accessibility? And then 14 months later, we've grown quite big, which is lovely to say. But if I hadn't have taken myself out of that environment and kind of made some really hard life decisions, been brave and wanted to help others. And I think the most important thing is to give that education to the corporate world that my employers never had, which they really needed. It's helping past Tania and lots of other past Tanias that are out there right now who are struggling, who love their work, but really just want their heads and their managers especially to just have more of an open-mindedness, kind of understand some communication strategies, some hiring practices, just to be a little bit more inclusive. So I'm very proud, but it takes a lot of bravery to choose life, and it takes a lot of bravery to choose yourself to also help others. So this is the first time I've actually said it in 14, 15 months, but I'm really proud of myself.
Good. I'm glad. I was just
It's been a lot, but it's literally the best decision I ever made.
Yeah. I was just thinking, because I work with a lot of people on their development of self, I have all these thoughts all the time, but I very rarely share them unless it's a good space to do so. And I do want to share this with you, that as you were saying that, I was like, this woman is such a powerhouse. And I'm not just saying that. That's genuinely in my head. It's like, you just carved a path. And yes, it was born out of adversity. Like I said earlier, every curse creates our gifts, right?
100%.
For some people, they've been trying to build businesses that are mission-based and all these things for a long time. And you just went to make the progress you've made in 14 months. It's like, just 14 months would be a very valid thing.
14 months.
It feels like a long 14 months, but that's what entrepreneurship is, right? That's what forging your own path is.
Yeah.
So is as challenging of a 14 months as it feels like, for some people that they're like 5 years and nothing's happened, and that's their path, right?
Yeah.
But you have just carved your path out of stone.
It's the why that keeps me going. Because I know, like I said, there's a lot of past Tanias who are struggling with their own brain and not being able to speak up or speak their mind, or say even in a meeting, oh, I've got an idea about that. Can I pitch it? So I always say, I didn't have a voice and I want to give others a voice.
Yeah, that's so powerful.
And just because life's too short. it's so short. We don't know when we're going to go. Everyone always says, oh yeah, retirement. It's like, it's not a given.
Yeah.
It's not a promise.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could go any day. So why don't you spend that time helping people?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's good karma as well. And trust me, it comes around the good karma. Trust me.
Yeah. We're going to talk about what some of those corporates can do and these kind of environments we can create in a little bit. But to round off this conversation about your story and your lived experience and going through this process, there's something you mentioned earlier. I really want to understand what it was like to be diagnosed with one thing at such a young age and then another at 25. Most folks who try to get diagnosed as adults or even have those conversations or even explorations and, like you said, waiting lists means maybe they never get diagnosed, but they, you know, it can be so challenging. Whereas when you're young, it's like the school system and everything is kind of there to push you through it. At least nowadays it is. So what was that like, getting diagnosed with something very young versus as an adult?
So this is like 7 or 8 years old, I always knew I had something extra to me. I had this. So at school, I had an amazing teacher who basically transformed everything. And he was the first teacher to sit me down and say, what do you need in the classroom? First of all. And he then taught me that ADHD is like this extra ball of energy to me. And as soon as he said it, I was like, oh my God, I have this extra ball of energy. Where do I put it? And he was like, you can put it in sports. You could put it in education because you have this extra energy. You need to run it off. You need to burn it off somehow, which is why a lot of us go on a mental health walk, and it's the heightened level of clarity for us is even better because we're using that other portion of energy. So it was, to be honest, that I think my parents tried. There was like star charts, bless them, and everything. My parents did their best with the knowledge that they were given. And I think that's really important to say again, because this was late 90s, very early 2000s. So research was building, but, you know, doctors were still saying, oh, she's a problem child, put her on Ritalin. And I was on it for about 2 weeks. My mum used to come in at lunchtime, and I just used to be, I think zombies, the correct word, where I just, all my personality, all my kind of hyper happy, bunny kind of energetic.
Nukes you.
All went. It was just, and I was exhausted. I used to fall asleep in classes. So my mum was like, that ain't happening. So 2 weeks I was off, and I haven't actually had ADHD medication. I've been thinking about it recently. But that's my own journey.
And I was just thinking like this is, to hear a story of a teacher doing that at that time, right, early 2000s or whatever, is really rare.
Yeah, extremely rare.
It's fairly rare now, relatively speaking. But back then, that's like unheard of.
Very lucky. Yeah.
So
I'm so grateful for that teacher. He literally changed my life.
I kind of wonder what his story is like. Because for him to be at that period in time, for him to be able to recognize that and use such a good analogy, like those specific words, those are words even I haven't thought of using. And my whole thing is energy. Like, I love talking about energy.
Yeah.
And even I've never thought to use that. I'm going to steal it, but
please do. He sadly passed away a couple of years ago, but he was always there. Like we connected on Facebook, and he sadly passed away a couple of years ago, but we managed to have a phone call about 4 years ago, and I got to say thank you to him and explain what I was in a, not the best place, but I was in a better place.
Yeah.
And I managed to say thank you, and that meant a lot to me because I felt like the ball had been complete, because it was in Cyprus, so it was a posting. So obviously I moved away from Cyprus to go back to England because my father was in the RAF. So we got literally posted like a mailman back to England, and I sadly never saw him again. But obviously Facebook was there. I managed to find him. So yeah, I got to say thank you, and that meant everything to me.
That's really interesting. Yeah, God, I wonder what I wonder how his story would have been. And especially he would have been, so he was a Cypriot?
So he was an English teacher.
Okay.
So a British white male, but he was older then. So I think he was about 50, 60 then. So you can imagine.
Yeah,
Really old man, but still literally sounded exactly the same.
And he knew what ADHD was.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like, for a man in his mid to late 50s, in the late 90s or early 2000s even.
Honestly, I think he was just an angel. I don't even think he was a human.
Listen, anyway.
I think he was sent to me.
This is what I'm saying now. I'm just genuinely, I think his story must be fascinating. But there are actually all of these little hidden stories that we will never know of people who are just like outsized returns. The ADHDs are a special force of nature that are like these silent angels. This is really interesting. A final piece you mentioned that I want to round off. So within your story, you've mentioned you've done a lot of work on your self-worth, self-belief.
Yes.
What has that journey been like and what's worked for you?
Oh, it hasn't been easy. I mean, I've seen so many entrepreneurial videos where they're just like, oh yeah, I just did this and this and this. And I was like, you're lying. You're lying. It is raw. It is, excuse my French, shit. You have to literally crawl out of a deep, muddy well. You have to learn who you are. You have to be raw with who you are and the mistakes you've made, the issues that you have, the journey of where you want to go. So related to manifestation, that's kind of the ideology that I like to go for. So when I say that, I mean universe signs, I mean completing the sentence as well. You don't just manifest, you need to action as well. So for example of that is if I bought a lottery ticket and I put out in the universe, I want to win the lottery. A lot of people will think, oh yeah, I'll win the lottery and it will be millions. And it's like, no, but you need to put in the universe, I want to win so and so much money. And then you'll start to action things. So it might not even be like the lottery. You'll put that manifestation into work. And if there was a video I saw recently actually, and it was this guy, he was on the street doing the mic interviews, and he was saying, if I gave you £1 million tomorrow, would you take it? And all the audience obviously said yes. And he was like, okay, if I give you £1 million now, but you die tomorrow, would you take it? And obviously everyone said no. So then he went on to say, so you've just told me every day is worth £1 million. Mm-hmm. So use your days wisely.
Interesting.
And that's the thing. So you have to put it in the universe, but you have to make the action. So if you want a better job, you have to look on Indeed, you have to look at job roles, you have to get pen to paper. What do you enjoy? What don't you enjoy? What are your interests? What can you do well? What do you struggle with? And make those actions. Manifesting isn't just like fairy potion, like, oh yeah, I'll think it so it'll happen. No, you have to put the action with the manifesting.
So for you, the self-belief journey has been figuring out what actions you need.
An extra source. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's almost having, I always think universe energy. I always think the universe is on my side. So I almost have that. We're getting a bit weird and spiritual now, but it's...
No, that's actually classic for me, so it's good. It works.
But it's almost like, I know the universe has my back. I just need to do it and not overthink and stop worrying and just live my life. Because again, I don't know when it's going to end. So it's just, but the self-belief and self-worth, I really had to sit myself down and be like, what I'm doing isn't good. What I'm doing isn't healthy. I might even be sabotaging certain relationships, sabotaging myself. What does happiness look like to me? How far away am I from that happy ending? And what do I need to do to get to that happy ending? And it's, since starting the consultancy as well, I've done public speaking, and that's been a God's gift. It's made me really push myself out of the comfort zone, which I think to become an entrepreneur, that's what you have to do. You have to kind of just accept that you will always be out of your comfort zone, and that's a good thing. But what it feels like is queasiness and sweating and prep and always thinking that you're maybe some imposter syndrome in there. If you're feeling all of that, that's a good thing because you care.
And so what's worked for you to build up that self-belief? Because it sounds like you just have a lot of it, right?
Oh my God.
Right. And I know you're like, oh no. So I had to see you say that. So what's actually worked to build it, right? It sounds like you're describing getting your reps in and doing uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, I'd say that's the foundation, but I always bring it back to the why I'm doing it. So I always ask myself, if past Tania could see me, if past Tania was sitting there, what would she say to me? What would I say to her? And would she be proud of what I'm doing right now? So I always bring it back to the why I'm doing it in the first place, who I'm helping. If I don't say this message to the world, who's going to suffer because I haven't said it?
Yeah. Would past me be proud of me? That's really powerful.
The little girl especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Because we're so caught up in the present moment, which is good.
And
right? Being present is good.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. So being present is good, but actually sometimes we're not present. We just, our head isn't consciously anywhere.
Yeah.
So we think we're living in the present moment, but actually we're just living unconsciously, period, regardless of where it is. And then consciously projecting yourself into that past to ask yourself a question about your present, that's really powerful. It's that appreciation of yourself and where you've gone that you were mentioning earlier. And
I've been through some stuff, and I think that's where the self-worth and self-belief has only come into fruition now at the age of 31. The 20s are hard. It's a roller coaster every day, but like your 20s are a roller coaster. You're constantly people pleasing. You're trying to figure out who you are, what you want to do, how your life wants to look like. And even though we do that anyway, your 20s are hardcore. So I'm in the kind of decade now of forgiving my past trials and tribulations, forgiving mistakes, and thinking, okay, who do I want to be? Not thinking about anyone else. What do I want to represent? What legacy do I want to leave as well? When someone says my name, when I'm no longer here, what do I want them to say? And obviously you can't control people, but you can help.
And there's one more example you mentioned earlier that I'm going to use as a segue to the rest of the conversation, which is around how these challenges can manifest themselves in the workplace.
Yes.
Right? A lot of the work you're doing now is around helping workplaces, cultures, leaders to improve the support they give their teams or their workplaces. What are those challenges for context that can manifest in the workplace? You told us some other examples, and I can imagine it's a lot of the same ones, but what does that physically look like in your workplace?
It's on the same level. So a lot of it from what I'm experiencing is communication. So obviously, as we all know, in relationships, communication is key. It's also in the workplace as well. So a lot of it is, I think a lot of people make assumptions and they just tell themselves the answer and that's it. And I mean that by both employer and employee. So a lot of the time the employer's like, oh, they're fine. They haven't said anything. The work's getting done. Everything's fine. The employee is thinking, I'm really struggling and I'm trying to mask and be the person they want, but I'm struggling because I need to be the person I need to be. And I know I do a good job, but if we just incorporated like Slack or like a project management tool or something, this wouldn't just help me, this would help the company. So I always say to an employee, make a case if you're struggling. So what do those communication styles look like? Do you prefer, and it goes with management as well, do you prefer more written than verbal? Do you prefer more verbal than written? Would it help having like a tool? Would it help having AI for note taking and meetings? Would it help once having a verbal meeting, then have written notes, for instance? So it's a lot of it is communication, finding those strategies, making it work, and it's making it cost effective as well. And I would also say like hiring practices as well, just for example. So I see all different types of job descriptions and they're interesting, but it's kind of understanding how that accessibility journey needs to look like both before entering the workplace, during the workplace, and after the workplace as well. So it's making sure those processes are in, making sure everyone's on the same page, making sure that everyone's got like their own personal persona documentation, how different employees like to work, which isn't really seen much in the corporate world, but it is slowly changing. So we do personal personas for clients.
What's the personal persona?
So it's kind of like, what is your communication style? How do you like working? What are the time frames you like working? So for instance, some people are best productive from 10 a.m. to 3. Some people work best like 7 a.m. till 1 p.m. So it's all about finding where you are the most productive and also being available when your employees need you, etc.
And so if I'm this company, or I'm a company, or even just a team leader in a bigger company, and I want to construct the most useful environment, and I use the word useful instead of the word accessible because I think it's kind of the result of making these more accessible is that it is more useful to everybody involved. Yes. So I want to create the most useful environment. Mm-hmm. You've given me a couple examples, but like, let's pretend I am that company.
Okay.
What are you walking me through? What are you advising me to do or telling me to do that I need to implement to improve? Mm-hmm. Is it processes? Is it systems? Is it specific software? Walk me through what you would do for me if I was that company.
Oh, it's everything. So everything I do is tailored. So I learn who you are first, how you as a manager, as a director, work now, what you've done before, what you're doing now, where you want to go, what industry you're in as well, because different industries work in different segments, different ways of communication, different ways of talking to clients, different types of clients, etc. So I would break it down into environmental analysis as well. So what does the actual space look like? Is it just all white walls and one window? Is it an open space office? Is there a room that's just full of boxes that could be turned into a quiet room for client meetings, that could be turned into a break room to just be zen, for example? And then I'd look at the actual roles in the company as well. So what role needs what? So for example, a web developer might need more quiet time to actually get deep in the code, because when they're constantly, and I've seen it, constantly bugged by account managers, they get annoyed, and rightfully so, because they're trying to do coding. And if you mess up just one line of code,
the whole thing can break.
The whole thing breaks. And then they have to go through it and sift through it to find the problem. That takes more time. That's more costly. Everyone gets in the crap. So it's understanding the types of roles and their needs and their communication styles and their methods as well.
Because it's context specific, maybe the most useful thing is like, what are the set of questions you would ask everyone, or you get everyone to ask themselves?
So I've introduced a few times like anonymous polls as well. So everyone in the company can access this form, and you don't have to say your name if you want, but you do need to put your role so people can understand the role. And it's how do you find the company? How do you find the values? Do you want more training? How do you like to communicate? Again, it all comes back to communication. What systems are in place that you like? What systems don't you like? And it's basically breaking down, analysing that company literally from the inside out, because at the end of the day, if you don't ask for that feedback, you don't understand your company. And it's the same with customers and clients as well. If you're not asking them how they feel about your product and your service, and you're just assuming you're doing a good job, there's going to be black spots down the line.
The question becomes, do you understand your people and how do you know?
Yeah.
Because a lot of folks might assume, yeah, I know what I'm doing. They don't want to admit they don't know what they're doing. But actually, it's like, how do you know? And it's like, because I just know. It's like, no, that's not good enough, especially at a certain team size, right?
100%.
Okay, and then let's say I work somewhere or I'm running a business of my own where I don't have managers, I don't have a team, or for whatever reason, no one else will do this for me, and I need to figure out what I can do for myself.
So do you mean from a leadership point of view as a manager?
A self-leader perspective, a self-leadership perspective. So yeah, maybe, or my company just isn't listening or hasn't put the things in place or whatever. In other words, what can I do for myself? So now we're moving it from a top-down structure. What can I do for myself to better support myself so that I can walk into any room or any environment, right? You've walked into this room with me today and I'm trying my best to accommodate, but you never know. There are obviously just things I don't know. So you've walked in knowing what you need first and foremost, and how to handle it yourself, and how to work with yourself, give yourself what you need, what to prepare, etc. So how does one help themselves through these things so that regardless of the environment, they can still do their best?
Well, that is the question. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah. What's your answer so far?
I would say the mindset that you come first. If you're working for a company, you will easily get replaced. It shouldn't be your life. So you need to make sure you know you to the best of your ability. I think meditation's really good. I think mindfulness. I think eating right. And then I think if you're in an environment where you can't quit and it's not the happiest, I think building a case of what you need. So then if you decide to go to HR, if you have a HR department or a manager, you've built a case to say, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what others are struggling with. This is the tools. This is the ways we can assess the problem, create a solution. This is cost effective, and build a case to make a healthy environment. I would say as an employee in a company that isn't in that position right now, I would say you've got to look after yourself. You have to come first, which I know is putting my hands up. It's so hard to put yourself first.
Yeah.
But there's little things to do, like even treating yourself to a posh coffee. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's those little things.
What's worked for you? Like some of these things are going to be systems and practices, right? So you mentioned taking space to be more mindful.
Yeah.
I can also imagine when you get to know yourself even better, or actually, like you mentioned at the beginning, sometimes for the first time in a weird way, getting to really know yourself.
Yeah.
You then go, okay, what I need is certain things, but then how do I know what I need? Almost like, give me the process that one needs to follow, or the specific questions that we need to ask ourselves so we can get really practical about figuring out what we need and giving that to ourselves.
So from a personal perspective, I hope this helps someone. When drawing it back to my ADHD and autism, I've only recently learnt while doing the consultancy, while continuing my education, that my ADHD and autism is struggled by hormonal issues. So as a woman, we obviously have the different phases. During each month, each week is different. Each week we feel different. Our body's constantly changing, etc. I digress. Add ADHD and autism on top of that with all the different sensory issues, it's a massive puddle. So learning my hormonal imbalances, shall we say, and reconnecting that with my neurodiversity, I've been able to assess different triggers, I call them. So for instance, if I'm feeling a little bit too emotional, I will ask myself questions like, have I eaten in the past 24 hours? Have I eaten healthily in the past 24 hours? Or have I eaten at McDonald's? You know, and it's, did I have an argument with someone? Did I go into a restaurant and get a load of sensory issues in the last 24 hours? Where am I on phases? So it's analysing yourself to that degree. And you don't have to do it every day, but like maybe like a weekly, bi-weekly check-in of where your body is and where your mind is kind of like a big first step to then be able to take action. Because at the end of the day, if you don't sit with yourself, you can assume the world and just do things blindly, which might not actually help you. So I would say sit down with yourself, ask the right questions of what did I eat? What am I feeling? Who did I speak to? And then kind of rebalance it and think, what do I enjoy? Do I need my favorite Disney film on the sofa with a bag of crisps and a dog? Yes. Okay. So I'll take that time out for myself, recalibrate, and then ask myself again. So it's being patient with yourself and kind of being very grounded. Meditation I've introduced the last 6-7 months in my life, and I only do it 10 minutes every night because of the bees. Yeah, I can only do so much, sadly, but those 10 minutes have been an absolute game changer for me.
Interesting. How so?
Because I think constantly with the head that I have, being able to put on an app for 10 minutes with just a single voice and soothing music in the background has been able for my brain to just focus on that one thing. And it's almost like a head break from my head. So I've been able to have 10 minutes every day of just pure peace. And now I really look forward to sleeping, which with the brain that I have is not easy getting to sleep, but I've felt myself drift off early like an old woman, but I'm being proud of it. It's out there now. Yeah. So I'm able to sleep, which makes me more productive, which makes me help my clients, which makes me help myself. So it's all a stepping stone journey. You do the first one and you're able to leapfrog to the second one. If you're just going to keep assuming on that first stone, you're not going to get anywhere because you won't know the real answers.
And how do you draw the line between admitting what you need and you mentioned something very briefly earlier, which I might butcher a little bit, but essentially making excuses. So to tell a little story, I know someone who was diagnosed, I think at like 4 with Asperger's. So he is on the spectrum. And I remember we were probably like 19 or something. And he said, look, sometimes I do silly stuff. It is because I'm on the spectrum, but also it isn't an excuse. So like, don't let me get away with it. Yeah. Right? Say something to me. Obviously be nice or whatever, but like, don't just like say nothing because this isn't something I want to be an excuse to mistreat people or whatever.
Be lazy.
Yeah, that's a good word. It's like be lazy. And we see this sometimes with therapy culture, what's become lovingly known as therapy culture. Therapy can be really useful, but what if it's almost used as an excuse? Some people, they're in therapy for years and make no progress because it's like, oh yeah, I know, I'm in therapy, I'm dealing with it. And it's like, it's not being dealt with. There's no difference.
It's just passed it on to someone. So they've now had that outlet. Yeah. So they've got it out of their brain and now they're living life like, oh, I've told someone and
so it's all fine.
So it's all fine.
And it hasn't been worked on. So
I'm with you.
I'm not sure if I'm describing this very well, but
I understand what you're saying.
How do we walk this line and have the almost self-honesty and the courage to go, this is when I'm just explaining what's going on.
Yeah.
And this is when I'm using it as an excuse.
I mean, I know what you're asking, and I think it depends weirdly on the person.
No, it's not. I don't think it's weird at all. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So like almost self-discipline. Discipline's really hard. But if you can get to the stage where it's just like, I'm talking shit and I need to just like sit myself down and be like, and I agree with you, I am making excuses for my experience, for my kind of almost head to be able to get away with it. If you can get to a place where you're disciplined enough to say, that's ridiculous, recalibrate, please, because some people need that outlet though, where it's almost like, I'm using it as an excuse just so my head can have a break so I can then action it and then later on almost process it and be like, actually, yeah, that was an excuse. Some people do need to almost tell themselves lies to get to that place to then actually make the process. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, sometimes we do just make excuses. It happens. It's a real thing.
Yeah. How to build the courage to be like, this actually isn't okay. And it's okay that it's not okay.
It's definitely okay that it's not okay.
It's only because the reason we go this, we want to avoid the thing that isn't okay. It's like we're afraid of that. It's like, don't be afraid of the fact that what you're doing right now isn't quite good enough.
Yeah.
Because you as a person are still good enough. You're just not acting or showing up as the person you can be more of. Do you want something to change? Okay, then and then you can move through it that way. It's like a courageous self-assessment with really, really intense honesty.
100%. And it's difficult as well to get to that place, because if we're just thinking laterally, it's like, yeah, it's an excuse, but then you've got to take yourself out of that and be like, what does my environment look like? What does my relationships look like? What does my career look like? When you add all these different pies on the plate, sometimes we almost weirdly need that excuse for just a second to be able to manage all these different pies, and then in our own time process and be like, actually, I need to own that. And I think that's really important to say. I need to own my shit. I need to process what I've done. I then need to make the actions to make it right, maybe, or kind of just learn from that experience. If you're not learning from what you're doing, you will make the same mistakes over and over again in different forms. You will have the same romantic relationship, for instance, but just in different forms. So I think you need to learn yourself. You need to learn what you're doing. You need to learn from what you've gone from the past. You need to learn what you want and stop making those same patterns, because you are just going to be in a circle.
So all of this is what I would label as the internal, right? Within yourself, within your company, whatever, it's all within. Mm-hmm. And there's also the external. So you talk a bit about accessible marketing, for example. So what of these principles are we now taking and applying to the external, i.e., how do I do my marketing and my comms more accessibly to take into account some of these things?
Yeah, of course. So accessible marketing is basically all about the user journey of platforms. So it's for anyone, no matter what your ability is. So for example, if we were analyzing a website journey, is going from thinking of a job application on a website, for instance, if you can't finish a job application in 3 clicks, it's not good. There was a company that I spoke to, and I was like, let's analyze the job application journey, and it was 10 clicks. I was like, how's your bounce rate?
And when you say
it's high,
you say 10 clicks, so that's like the next stage of the survey.
Different pages, different
CTAs. It was 10 pages, because you've got to answer a bunch of questions, which is technically quite a few clicks, right? Like, let's say I've got 3 questions and upload resume, and then there's the diversity information, which I'm assuming is a legal requirement because it's always there. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's at least 8 clicks.
Exactly. But it doesn't have to be like that. You can do the hiring process in stages. So you can ask some of those questions in an interview. You can ask them on a different type of application. You can ask them in a video interview or a phone interview. If you don't have a hiring process that's accessible, you're going to miss out on good candidates. So for instance, an example of this is if a job description, for instance, is massive bulk of text and there's no paragraphs, I'm clicking off. I'm not applying for that. I'm sorry. It literally could be the golden best job in the world. I'm not sitting through it because that's telling me that's not accessible. And that could be, it's such an easy fix. It doesn't cost you anything, just cost you like 3 minutes of time just to break up that text and make some bullet points. And that's what I mean by accessibility is for everyone. Making sure that that user journey is easy to use, easy to follow, regardless of your ability. And it also relates to social media as well. So if you're seeing a load of flashy images, that's not going to be nice for anyone. Email marketing, if your CTAs aren't clickable, that's going to be frustrating for people. So it's all these different user journeys, making it accessible, making it easy to use, making it easy for people to buy from you as well. And that's essentially what it is, making sure that those journeys are easy so you can make money.
Yes, actually, it's a good point. It's like, if people don't want to buy from you, they don't want to buy from you and you don't make money. But why don't they want to buy from you? Maybe it's because they don't like your product. Maybe it's because they just aren't enjoying their experience with you. And there could be so many reasons for that.
Exactly.
It's really interesting because I'm thinking like comms, right? When I think about the way like LinkedIn posts are commonly written now, the way the spacing works, non-existent paragraphs, it's like a sentence long as a paragraph. And I think it can make things noisy, but actually, surely it makes it easier to read.
Yeah.
Sometimes emojis actually help break things up as opposed to
just
make
not
it
too
louder. Yeah, not too many. But it's what I'm thinking. It's like, you know, what is the best practice? Because part of me is like, it's similar to what we said a lot today, which is that it's context specific.
Yeah.
But actually there are going to be plenty of businesses that want to hyper optimize. What is exactly the structure we should follow in these exact places? You know, what should my blogs exactly be? What should my LinkedIn posts exactly be? What is the proportion of emoji and with the ideal length of a paragraph, like trying to get really specific? Because I'm not going to have some posts that are for the neurodiverse folks, some posts that are for everyone else. It's like, no, everything just needs to reach everyone effectively.
Yeah.
And so what is the most effective expression of stuff, the most effective marketing, for example? What does it actually look like?
My gosh, that's a massive question.
You need to meet some contact yourself about that.
It depends which angle we're looking at. So, for instance, if a company was doing social media and they'd released a video, for instance, it's bringing back those personal personas again. So, being accessible in a video, for example, if I was on a train and I forgot my headphones, I'm going to want to watch that video with captions. If the captions aren't there to read, I'm going to scroll. And I'm not deaf, I can see, I'm not blind or anything. It's just the environment around me doesn't allow me to watch it the way I want to. So that captions is an accessibility tool, for example.
Yeah.
So we have web content accessibility guidelines, so WCAG, and there are lots and lots of rules in that as well. So different font sizes, what types of color is good. So for example, with my autism, I get an emotional reaction from the color red. I can wear red, but on websites and social media, it can actually cause a trigger, even if I don't feel it properly at the time.
Which is really specific
color
to you.
Psychology.
And that is, that's really specific to you, I'd assume, right? And that not everyone on the spectrum would have that kind of same
reaction. Not everyone, but it's heightened autism because it relates to the sensory again.
Okay.
So it's part of that sensory.
That's interesting because some brands obviously are going to use, because they're doing color psychology, like you just said, they're going to use red on purpose. But then some people, certain things might trigger them and you just don't know.
No.
So like you can't have for everyone. Exactly.
You can't make everyone happy. And I think that's important to say.
Yeah.
But in terms of accessibility, you can be more open-minded with your audience. So if you're not being accessible, you're automatically losing 30% of an audience. So, and in terms of disability itself, it's worth £274 billion, which was last recorded, that number. So it's probably more close to 300 with the awareness and the incentives now and the laws coming in. So if you're not being accessible with adding captions to videos, making accessibility policy, making your massive content not in paragraphs, for example, not doing alt text on imagery on websites, just for a few things, you're losing automatically just sitting here clients and money. And because the world is changing, I'd like to think we're becoming kinder, but let's just say we're researching and learning and adapting more in this year. People are getting on the accessibility bandwagon and people need to really take it seriously. So for instance, Google on their conference, it's not ICO, but it's similar to the letters. Recently, they have said that they're taking accessibility really seriously. So they're introducing personal searches. So, for example, if you don't like onions, it will not show any recipes with onions in, for example.
On Google. That's really interesting.
So it's becoming more adaptive.
It has to remember you because through the AI remembering algorithm. Yes.
So when we're thinking about accessibility, it will remember if you need a screen reader. It will remember if you are colorblind, if you are deaf, if you need certain ones. If those websites aren't accessible, they will not show. And Google has said that about 3 weeks ago in a statement.
Interesting.
So this is why accessibility is so important, because everyone is getting on the bandwagon.
Do you know why this is so important?
There's laws as well coming in.
Do you know why this is so important? So I'm from the States, which is I'm from LA. If you can't tell by the accent, and the States is in a really messy place right now. One of these things is what has become lovingly known as the DEI pushback. Now, a really key word here for me is that inclusion piece, because accessibility and inclusion they're not the same thing, but it's kind of almost the same thing. Like this is within one.
We're at the same party.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. And so much of this pushback has been, why do we have to go out of our way to do X, Y, Z? And it's coming from the place where money rules all, where it's like, because you should want to, because money. So it's not, you kind of essentially said, well, we're becoming kinder. And I like to think that's the case. Sometimes it doesn't always feel that way.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of time it doesn't feel that way. And you could argue if it is or isn't. But actually separate to that, it isn't just so we can be nice or we can be kind. There's also a bottom line piece. And that I don't think is new information, but when you express it the way you just did, which is like, people will not see you. Like Google will just not show you. And it isn't because Google's trying to be more quote unquote DEI. It's because it's trying to make money, i.e. it's trying to show people what they want to see. If people don't want to see you, it's not going to show you. And they're not going to, if there's 30% of people that are never going to see you, how much money do you waste on customer acquisition that Google could be giving you for free that you're not going to, but that's 30% less that you're not going to get. And
automatically.
It's such a like ABC 1 + 1 = 2 process, right? When you outline it that way, which is super practical. So if nothing else, systems need to change so that you can be as successful as you want to be.
Well, yeah, essentially as well. There's also some new laws coming in. There is the European Accessibility Act that is actually in place now. So that was in place 28th of June, and I'm still learning about it myself. I'm not going to say, I know everything about it. I can only say what I know. So, and that is essentially if you work with overseas, if you are a UK business and you work with European businesses, and that can look like a digital service, for instance, if you're posting services across the European, you need to abide by the Accessibility Act. And that's similar to what we've been going through with the WCAG. So it's making sure paragraphs are easy to use. It's making sure you don't have to be, there's different levels as well of WCAG. So there's 2.2, 2.1, A, AA, AAA. There's a lot. But it's working with this European Accessibility Act to basically say if your user journey isn't easy, and you're making it more complicated than it is, you're going to get fined. And they've mentioned fines up to 4 million euros.
And on what size of company is this? Because I can imagine a scrappy little startup, like
any size.
Like me, my website is just my portfolio at the moment, basically.
It's worth researching.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. So again, any UK business that works with overseas European businesses, European customers, do your due diligence.
Really interesting.
Just in case.
What is what's the most important thing that we haven't talked about? What is the
we have so much.
I know. I asked you another one. Like we've the time has flown. There's things I have not had time to ask you. I know. There's things I haven't had time to go through with you. So we actually will need to do a part 2. But yes. However, I guess what strikes me is that if there was a message that you had to give to anyone feeling lost, who is neurodiverse, or they're expecting that they have some kind of one of these challenges we had outlined, what is the big message you'd want them to take away they maybe haven't discussed yet?
That you are not broken, even though you might feel broken. You're not broken, the system is. So how we've built society has been very, and I hate the term, but it's true, one size fits all. Society has been built with just one customer persona in mind for years. So even though the awareness of neurodiversity is coming out, even though the research is the services like myself, like the training, that's all good, but it's still a massive journey. So I would say it's not you. You're amazing, but learn more about yourself, learn the why you do certain things. Be on that journey. You don't have to put it out to the universe. It can be a private journey as well. And just, you're only going to get one body. You're only going to get one life. So instead of almost ignoring yourself, get in the chaos. Like, be one with yourself. And you're going to cry and you're going to get angry at yourself and it's going to hurt. But there's a whole other chapter just waiting for you once you do the hard work. And I'm not going to sit here because even though I am successful and I plan to be even more successful, the excess to me looks like me and the journey that I've done. So I can talk so candidly about the crap times because I've worked through it and worked on myself and helped people and almost given back to the world. But yeah, sit with yourself, learn about yourself. It's going to be hard. It's going to be 100% worth it.
Yeah. The only person worth competing with is the future version of yourself.
Yeah.
That
100%.
you want to be more of.
Yeah.
That you can be more of, but some mix of yourself or the systems around you or both are going to be making that more challenging. That's actually what part 2 is going to be about.
Yeah.
Is those systems. Because as a very quick reflection before I wrap us up, it's like some of these things are only challenging because of the systems around us. Yeah. And those systems, by the way, they don't just mean like society is structured this way, politics is because that can feel so out there and therefore that I can't do anything about it. Mm-hmm. What I really mean is...
It's not in your control.
Yeah, what is in your sphere of influence, how to influence a system, and also understanding that when I say the system, what I mean is like our ways of working, right? Yeah. Who is it designed by and who for? And this doesn't mean, it was all designed for white men at a certain age at a certain time. It can, because that can sound like prescriptive and accusatory. And really, it's actually just acknowledgement that most of us go about our lives unconsciously, that our workplaces are following unconscious systems, and that to make your life better or the world around you better, that for better or worse often falls on you to take that responsibility to more consciously live, to more consciously make certain decisions or craft life instead. To wrap us up then.
Oh no.
I know. I just dropped a big cliffhanger. Spoilers. Stay tuned for part 2. The last question I ask everyone who comes on the show. The show is called Lost in Searching. And so I'd love to know, for you in your life right now, what is the number one question that you are searching for the answer to?
What does happiness look like to me? And it changes year by year, chapter by chapter. So back in the day, it used to be materialism. As you're younger, you always want things. And then the past few years, it's kind of been more experiences and my relationships with people and the relationship with myself. So yeah, what does happen? Because obviously we change as people of over 7 years, like all the cells get replaced after 7 years. So that's those different chapters as well. But I think even every day, happiness can look differently. So what does happiness look like to me today? What does happiness look like to me in a year's time, in 5 years' time? And kind of just map out a plan of happiness. Yeah. What does happiness look like to me today and for the future?
What are your answers so far?
It changes every day. Sometimes it's an ice cream, and so, sometimes it's, my dog happily running around and agile, and some days it's a cuddle from my fiance. So it's almost going into that gratification, gratitude area, I think, as well. So kind of gratitude. How can I make myself happy and be grounded? And what does that foundation look like? Yeah.
This is really interesting because you're actually kind of almost describing two different things here, I think. Yeah. Happiness is, which is fine.
I'm my own living hypocrite.
Which is, well, actually, I think it's a really useful distinction to acknowledge. We still have the idea as a culture, widely speaking, that, or generally speaking, that happiness is this thing you can get that can be achieved. But actually, happiness is not an emotion. Joy is an emotion. Happiness is an experience that no matter how amazing your life is, will constantly fluctuate. What are the things that create a good baseline? Certain habits, certain ways of thinking, but also the practices that create as much joy and as much gratitude is actually a key word there, as often as possible. So whatever your answer is, it sounds like it's going to be an even stronger foundation. And as you've shared with us today, that foundation for you in particular, because of some of your challenges, has been more challenging to build than it might seem, at least for the average person.
Yeah.
But actually, we've all got something in our way of building that foundation. And when we can overcome that, we can work through that, build that foundation, everything can, you can build a building finally, and the building can be inhabited. And the fun really starts. Tania, this has been so cool. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate the vulnerability. I appreciate that you're here with us to do that. Your presence, you traveled down to make this possible today, and the candidness you've had that, look, these things are tough and there isn't one catch-all solution, but you've been able to walk us through what I can do for myself, and so internally and externally, and that I think can create a really strong sense of empowerment. And on top of you just being a superhero yourself. So thank you so much for all of that. And I'm also proud of you for that journey that you've gone through.
Don't make me cry. Thank you. I really appreciate the invite, and I've obviously followed your work. I think you're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So, and I did see the overlapping threads of our stories. So part 2.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Well, look at you making it to the end of the episode. Welcome. There's a lot more for you to do. If you're still here, there's a full playlist on YouTube down below. There's a recommended video probably somewhere around the screen or down below, and so much more. Give us a follow, help share if you're here. Hey, maybe you enjoyed it. And look, this show only grows with your help. So again, I know you're probably bored of hearing it, but it would mean the world to me if you help us out and paid it forward and shared it around. And hey, you never know how this will help someone else. So thank you so much for being here, for being a part of it. Lots of love, and here's to your success. See you soon.